All right. So tonight's event is celebrating the St. Louis River, and as I said just a second ago, tonight we're focused on the history of the St. Louis River, some of the uses in the past, some of the ways that the St. Louis River was impaired, and really a focus on the folks in the community and what they've done to restore it to the point that it's at now, and some exciting new news about a new designation that the river has that I'll let Kris share when she gets started here. So we're really excited at Cafe Sci to have you all here tonight, and then to have Kris Eilers lead the discussion. So Kris is the executive director of the St. Louis River Alliance. She's been there for about 10 years, and recently, about 6 years ago, became the executive director, and has really helped the organization grow in terms of projects and funding and members, and all the great things that the St. Louis River Alliance has been able to do. So Kris is going to lead the discussion here. And as I said, at the end, there'll be a dedicated discussion portion for all of us to jump in. But in the meantime, feel free to put anything in the chat. I'll monitor and pass stuff on to Kris while she speaks, and we'll get started. So thanks for coming out, everybody. Thank you very much, Kris, for being here, and you've got the floor.
Thanks. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the past of the river and the degradation it suffered. And we've got a really good story to tell. We've had a really engaged community, and tonight I'm going to, we talk about different things on for different crowds of people. And, you know, the Alliance has been, it's been a little hard in the last couple of years with the pandemic to connect in person with people. So we really haven't been out in the public as much as we normally are. So it's been really great to connect with different groups, and your group especially. So tonight we're talking a little bit more in depth about community engagement, the importance of relationships, and some of the successes that we get to talk about now. So it's just really a kind of a nice community success story. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure that my sound is shared. So can you all see my screen here? Okay. Okay. All right. So like I said, I'm here to talk about the St. Louis River Alliance and how partnerships and community engagement have really had an impact on the river and have helped create a better place to live. That's in a nutshell. The St. Louis River Alliance is a membership organization that's committed to supporting the resilience of the St. Louis River. As stewards of the river, we are the voice of the river, working together to protect, restore, and enhance the St. Louis River. And we envision a clean and healthy St. Louis River with a thriving ecology, economy, and community. And I think there's a few people who here from out of town or out of state, perhaps even. So the St. Louis River Estuary is a really special place. It's 12,000 acres. It is the largest coastal freshwater wetland ecosystem in the Lake Superior. And it is also the largest U.S. tributary to Lake Superior. And it's the most significant source of biological productivity for the western half of the lake. It exists in a delicate balance of a very busy shipping port, and it's very urban industrial areas. There's also some wild spaces out there that you might forget how close you are to an urban area. You get pulled in by the sounds and sights of the wildlife. So that's where we're at. I need to change a video here or something on my screen for a second. Okay. Oh, that didn't work either. I'm sorry. Just one second.
No problem. No problem.
I'm having to move. It's covering my screen. Your pictures are covering my screen. So I need to try to move it a little bit. And it keeps attaching somewhere else. I'll try that.
Okay.
Okay. The St. Louis River Estuary was severely degraded through unregulated pollution back through up and through the 1970s. And some of the earlier history is that there were sawmills on the river, and they put their wood waste right into the river. There was a lot of industry, and back then there wasn't regulations that protected the river. And so it wasn't illegal for companies and industry to dump things into the river. And I think we all have stories about what we've seen in the past and what we hope doesn't happen again. But the EPA designated this estuary an area of concern in 1987, and it required the states to create a plan and remove the impairments. The EPA also required a formal citizens' input as part of the project process. This presentation is going to show how meaningful public engagement and partnerships can impact an entire ecosystem and future generations. So how did we go from this horrible pollution to this? That's what we're going to talk about.
The St. Louis River Estuary, our home, once an abundant source of life, shimmering with fish and wildlife, birds and wild rice so thick, it was described as hayfields on the water. It runs 192 miles through rare bogs, spills over rocky falls, and widens into a unique freshwater estuary. The river becomes Lake Superior. People have been drawn to the abundance for centuries, and it has generously provided for its inhabitants throughout the ages. But development and industrialization dimmed our connection to the source of life, and the river was abused and neglected. The life was choked out. By the 1970s, devastation of waterways had degraded the quality of life across the nation, and the people started to rise up and demand change. The Clean Water Act was passed, and the St. Louis River Estuary was designated as one of 43 areas of concern around the Great Lakes in dire need of restoration. The St. Louis River Alliance was born out of a group of concerned citizens that helped bring people together to clean up the St. Louis River. And for decades now, citizens, agencies, and partners have joined forces to care for the river. While there is much left to be done, the river is reflecting that care back to us. Rekindled relationships to our source of life is sparking renewal and healing our communities. We are stronger, and we are finding new ways to discover how we can live together and thrive, and what it means to care for our home. The cleaner water is generating a sense of hope, and people are remembering their connection. The original vision of the shimmering river that turns into Lake Superior is reborn. We invite you to come home to the river.
I like to play that video because it says a lot in a short period of time with all the beautiful visuals and where we've come from and where we're going and where we're at right now is actually a pretty amazing transformation. So some of the history was told in that video about the devastation that was done to the river and how impaired it was. And the St. Louis River Alliance began from that early process. There was a couple of our board members, former board members, you probably know Bill Majewski, Jackie Zell. They were part of this original group, and maybe some people in the audience tonight were in this original meeting that the IGAC held at Denfeld High School, and it was either in 1987 or 88. And they were there to announce the designation of an area of concern, and also to say they wanted some citizen input, and over 100 people showed up, I guess. And they continued having meetings where more than 100 people showed up, and it was almost unmanageable because so many people cared about the river and were so concerned. The river was so bad that you really couldn't even go in it in a lot of places. And there's a lot of stories around that as well. But the St. Louis River Alliance then became a nonprofit in 1996. But we were the original Citizens Action Committee that was created to connect citizens to the area of concern process. And so some of our work that we do, I'm going to just go through a few examples of some of the things we do, but They fit into these categories right here. We have habitat projects. We do stewardship events. We are an area of concern partner. We provide connection to the river through a lot of different kinds of events, and we are now the managers of the National Water Trail. Part of our work is we have contracts with some of the agencies who are the area of concern coordinators. And we have a contract with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and we do Visit Star boat tours. We've been doing them annually for a while now. We've had photo contests. We have a celebration of progress where we have an event that helps connect people to the area of concern coordinators. We also do a lot of engagement and social media and updates. We also have our own annual events, and this year we were finally able to do a couple of events in person. So we had a spring cleanup, and this is a photo of a cleanup up on Miller Creek, which runs into the St. Louis River, and there was a lot of garbage in there. You can see that's up by Target. And Miller Creek is an impaired stream as well, and it's a impaired trout stream. We also had our annual canoe trip, and normally we have about 80 people show up to that, and we limited the capacity for that this year. But boy, did we have a good time, and the wind was so bad that we actually got to stay in. We were out at Woodstock Bay, and we had to change plans because the wind was so strong. But we went back in one of those little fingers, and as soon as we put our boats in, some otters popped up out of the water, and then we paddled back, and there was an eagle that people were watching. So there's plenty of wildlife out there, and it was just really fun to be together again. We also have a couple of contracts with Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and we've done wild rice planting around Clough Island for about, I think, 6 years now. And then this last year we did a planting at Kingsbury Bay because that was a newly restored habitat area, and they wanted to get the seed on the ground while it was fresh before other species took hold. This is an event that we ask for our members to come help us with. So it's a really unique and special opportunity to be able to plant wild rice. One of our other contracts with the Wisconsin DNR is to do site maintenance on the piping plover habitat on Wisconsin Point. And some of you might know the piping plover is a critically endangered shorebird that we've been working on in some capacity since 2011. And some of the partnerships that we have are illustrated with this slide here. We have on the right here, we have a group from the U of M or UMD that that volunteered. They called us. Oftentimes we don't even have to call people for volunteer opportunities because they call us and ask what they can do. They went out there and cleaned up garbage and woody debris, and also some unwanted vegetation that has to be managed specifically for the piping plover. And then we also have a contract with U.S. Fish and Wildlife working on the critically endangered shorebird, the piping plover, who used to nest in the area here. And they have not nested since the 1980s. So we've been working with the community to raise awareness and ask people to avoid certain areas and things like that. We just do a lot of outreach. And then we also monitor Minnesota Point and Wisconsin Point. And generally we will find one or two birds that come by in the spring during migration, but they have not stayed to nest yet. This bird in particular, Michael Furtman, happened to be out on the beach. And this one was, because of its banding, we can see, we know who this bird is. And this bird was actually captive raised last summer in 2020 from an egg that was salvaged from a late nest. And so it was released on Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore and came by to check things out on our beach. So just kind of a wrap up who we are. We provide engagement through events and activities. We work with local governments, state and federal agencies, and other organizations. We contribute to the delisting process with habitat projects. We provide volunteer opportunities, citizen science, and recreation to help connect people to the St. Louis River. We encourage connection and engagement, and often that results in stewardship. And we hope that we inspire partnerships So I hopefully I'm painting a picture here of how many different groups that we network with. And this whole process of cleaning up the river has been a giant undertaking by many people who have dedicated their lives to it. And I don't list them all here because there's just too many. Sometime maybe I will list them all, but so I'm painting the picture of community engagement and the people who love the river. And so this next is an example of a perfect storm of what the community can do when we come together. Back in 2015, the area of concern was in need of funding to clean up the contaminated sediments, and there had been 10 sites identified, and all the testing had already been done to see what needed to be done. And so the plan was already in place, but there was federal dollars waiting, but we had to have a state match for it. So the St. Louis River Alliance stepped up and led an effort to secure state bonding funds. And it went really well. It went better than we were really kind of scared to do it, because it costs a lot of money to do that kind of thing and to engage legislation, and you have to have a government consultant, and it was going to cost us a lot of money, and the community really stepped up. But some of the things that we did were we did a lot of strategic planning, and part of the I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on this because just to show what kind of effort it took by the whole community. So we did a lot of strategic planning with the consultant, and we worked with our board, we worked with our members, and then we networked with a whole bunch of different organizations who all got on board. We did intense public relations, and we started a clean water campaign to raise awareness and money to help pay for the government consultant. And then we worked with legislators to introduce the bill and gain bipartisan support. And there were thousands of people who helped get this done. And it really wasn't a hard sell at all, because people love the river. And what we found out is that it ended up being an amazing experience because it was such a show of support for the river, and people just came out of everywhere to help, even people in Wisconsin, even though it was a Minnesota state bonding bill. So in total, we helped secure it. This is the breakdown. We got a $25.4 million bonding bill, and that triggered $47.2 million in federal funds. And I'm sure that you guys have been able to see, if you're around here, you've been able to see dredges out in the harbor. That money there's a lot of restoration projects out there also, and those are being paid for by other sources of funding. But the ones that are cleaning up the contaminated sediments are paid for in part by the state bonding funds and Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funds. And also there's some other funds for that. But all of the projects that have been completed are Minnesota SLIP, SLIP 3, SLIP C, and ASCON, the Duluth Seaway Port Authority SLIP. And there's also all of the other ones are in progress right now, and you can see the target dates, and but they're all already underway, and that is because of the community effort to get that work done. And not only did it help get this work done, it brought $73 million into our area that is helping that help bring people back to work and stuff. So it's really a win-win for the whole community, and it's a giant success for what was able to be done. So the area of concern work is ongoing, but the results of it are visible right now. There was a huge coordinated efforts from state and federal agencies, and both City of Duluth and City of Superior have had initiatives to help work on the restoration of, well, on the Duluth side, to work on the restoration of they called it the St. Louis River Corridor projects back, I think what was started with Don Ness. And so we work with the city on a lot of these initiatives as well, and help do some engagement and community work for that. But there's been huge amounts of resources going into the river corridor, and that work is being possible because of a cleaner river. And so some of that work is restorations in Lincoln Park. I think all of us have gone down there to eat and gone to some of the shops and things that are down there now. That wasn't like that, 5-6 years ago. The housing, there's better river access, and some of the other barriers to the river are slowly being revisited, and that is a long process. The family-owned businesses are on the increase in the restored areas. I know that there's different programs that are incentives. There's a general sense of hope that's creating a synergistic effect, and it's bringing young people and new ideas back to the area. When I say young people, I feel like my grandmother right now, but we are seeing the return of younger people coming back to the area. Maybe people who went to college here, or people who came here to go to college and they stayed to start new businesses. I actually know 3 people that have done that. The cleaner river has made it possible to create a plan and receive a national designation for the St. Louis River Estuary National Water Trail. So that is kind of a huge deal right there. So that's what I'm going to kind of go into to talk about right now.
At the headwaters of Lake Superior lies the nation's largest freshwater estuary. Flowing between Wisconsin and Minnesota, the St. Louis River Estuary has a rich history. Unfortunately, due to unregulated industrial dumping, by the 1970s, the St. Louis River was considered one of the most polluted waterways in the United States. After decades of work by agencies, the river is now slowly and painstakingly being restored to health. The National Water Trail Project is a direct result of a cleaner river. It celebrates the slow return of vitality, giving people access to recreate and reconnect to the river once again. The St. Louis River Estuary National Water Trail was designed under the direction of the City of Duluth and over 50 partners. It is not a linear trail, but a series of loops for different skill levels and various watercraft. By providing access to wild spaces in an urban area, the water trail enables more people an opportunity to build their own memories and relationships to this unique treasure. The St. Louis River Alliance is a membership organization of river stewards working together to restore, protect, and enhance the St. Louis River. As proud managers of the water trail, the Alliance is leading a working group of representatives from Minnesota and Wisconsin to ensure its success. There's much work to do in order to make this water trail a popular destination, and the St. Louis River Alliance is making it a top priority. The St. Louis River Estuary Water Trail will lead you to untapped wild spaces just waiting to be explored. Support the water trail by becoming a member today.
Oops, sorry. So the St. Louis River Estuary National Water Trail is only possible because of decades of work and partnerships. The water trail is a result of the cleaner river. More and more people are coming here to explore the river and the recreational opportunities. It will help bring awareness to the river and all it has to offer, and that will help preserve it for future generations. We always joke that we'll know when we've been successful when people start getting tattoos of the river and not just Lake Superior. That's one way to gauge things around here, I think. The water trail designation, I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail here, but it was a lot of work to get to this point. Back in 2015 or 16, the city of Duluth started working on the possibility of submitting an application to the National Park Service. So they gathered up a whole bunch of stakeholders and people who are interested, and that included agencies and the Port Authority, and started working on this application with a consultant. And then that application was, when it was finished, was turned over to the National Park Service, who actually was so impressed by the application that they wanted to make it like a national model. And then they recommended it to be designated by the Secretary of the Interior. And that was submitted in 2016, and there it sat for almost 3 years. before the Secretary of the Interior signed it. And so we were really, really super happy to hear last fall that that he did sign it and made it official. And so we are currently we convene a group called the Advisory Council, and that has a bunch of people, agencies. It's a working group, and it has people from the Minnesota DNR and City of Superior, City of Duluth, some of the marinas, some of the Paddlers Alliance, and people like that who come and get together we are implementing the master plan. So we're currently working on that, and we consult with the, there's a bunch, if you want to look at the master plan, there's a copy of it on, I believe, on our website and also on the City of Duluth's website as well. So we're going to keep working on this. And, you know, the more you connect people to the water, the more people take care of it. And that's the whole reason why we exist as an organization. So hopefully most of you have been out on the river and you know what kinds of things you can do out there. Even as recent as 10 years ago, it wasn't even possible to explore the river in this way because of the pollution. The transformation has been completely amazing. And we are continuing to work with partners on more access, increase opportunity, and just kind of removing some of the barriers that are keeping people from being able to explore it. The routes are available online, and we also have maps. These maps are really nice. They're actually poster quality maps with some beautiful artwork and some history on there. You can pick some up outside of our office in the DeWitt Sites building, Suite 208, or you can look online to get where they're available. They're available at a whole bunch of different places, and we'll be making a new map this year as well, because when we first printed it, we did not have the designation yet, and we weren't going to let that slow us down. So we went and printed them anyway, and continued on with our plans, because we knew it would get signed eventually. And so we just didn't want anything to slow us down, because this is just a culmination of, you know, like I said, decades of work and hearing the stories of how it was polluted. And even when I was a kid, I lived down in Stillwater in that area, and we would come up to the North Shore when I was probably 12. And I remember looking over the banks when you first come over that hill and asked my mom why they were dumping stuff into the river. And that made an impression on me so strong that it was really a vision of mine to be able to come up here and do something about that. So this is kind of a lifelong dream for me. And I get so excited about all the work that's been done and what we're able to do now. We've got the water trail isn't like a linear trail. It's a series of loops. And we had an intern this last summer, and she went out and she did 6 different loops, and she filmed them, and she made these cool little videos. So I'm going to show you one. If you watch close, you can see some wildlife. Did you see the sturgeon? There was a sturgeon, there was a blue heron, there was, I think there was some kind of blackbird, and there was a bear up in one of the trees too. So we have some of these examples on our website. So if you want to see, well, it'll get a little preview of what you might get when you go out there. And we can also help maybe suggest places to go and things like that if you don't know where to start. And the future of the water trail is we're going to continue to implement the master plan. And that means working with the cities on different signage and markers and things like that. Hopefully creating an app for phones so that you can find your way around using a phone. And there'll be hopefully a few more campsites, and the agencies do all of that work. We just help coordinate with it. There's a bunch of different ways for you all to connect with the river and to use your skills. I think we have a room full of scientists here, so there's all kinds of different work you can do. We do, like I said earlier, we do plant wild rice every year, and that is really an amazing, unique opportunity to do. We also work on habitat projects, and we do have volunteers for some of those as well. We take canoe kayak trips. We have an annual river tour, and we also do winter walks. I think we'll get to do one this winter. And we also need stuff like administrative help once in a while. And there's also other opportunities to connect with other groups as well. There's the Friends of the NER, there's Minnesota and Wisconsin Sea Grant, there's the Duluth SISMA, Northland Paddlers Alliance, and you can be a Minnesota or Wisconsin master naturalist. So there's all kinds of ways to use your skills and learn more actually too. But like I said earlier, the whole reason why we exist and why the work keeps getting done is because, you know, when you connect people to the river, you're really connecting people to themselves. And I think we've all realized in the last couple of years what really things are truly important. And I know I went down to the river a lot when things got hard, and the river is just it's just our place. It's our source of inspiration. It can be a place that we recreate. But really what it has happened here is that as we've worked on the river to help restore it, it has helped restore us, and it's helped restore our community. And actually, I think a lot of times our faith in our community members as well, but in ourselves. And it's just been an amazing network of real people who work and live here. We have the support of government funding, the love of the river, and the resilience of the river itself. And that's what's changing our community. So you can support our work by making a donation, becoming a member. We're having a sustainability drive right now, and we have a great event coming up in a couple of weeks at Ursa Minor. It's going to be outside on their patio, and we're calling it the River Ally Appreciation Party. You can come have a few beers, get some tokens. We're having some great door prizes, and we'll also be announcing if you become a member or donate anything, you get a chance to win a kayak trip for up to 6 people. So we're going to be drawing that night, and you don't have to be present to win that night, but for the door prizes you do. But I hope this has painted a good picture of what kind of community we have here, what the river means to everybody, and really what kinds of things we can do out there. So I can take any questions you might have. Or do you want to unmute everybody and have a free for all?
Yeah, sure. Folks, feel free to unmute if you'd like to. Yeah. So first thing I'll say is thank you for the great presentation. I see Glenn clapping. I'll clap a little
Thanks,
bit
Glenn.
here too.
Didn't I just see you the other day, Glenn? I thought so, but it's a different one, right?
Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I'll go ahead and take the first question.
Okay, I'll try to answer.
So one of the things that's really interesting here is thinking about, you know, like you mentioned, there are a handful of scientists in the group here today and things like that. But I'm really curious about like maybe just talking a little bit more about some of sort of the skills on the organizational side to like organize. Like what really struck me was you're talking about the bonding effort and like hiring a government consultant, what it means to actually go and secure those funds that allows the restoration. And I'm sure, you know, some of that has gone to some of the science and contributed to some of the science that we can do in the area. So I'm just curious about what that is like and what it
took to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
well, you know, it was really scary for us at first because, well, we were the perfect group to do it. I mean, the agency was not able to do that at the time. And so, you know, we sat down with our board and we talked about it, and we hadn't really raised very much money in the past. But we realized it would be a win-win because we knew that we could probably get the community support to get it done. But we weren't sure exactly how to do it. But what we did was we scheduled a whole bunch of public presentations like this, only they were in person. And then, you know what, it just caught fire. Everybody got people who had been in the community a long time, people like Dave Zentner, and people who were involved in other fishing groups. And some of our board members had a lot of connections with these fishing groups. And then Isaac Walton League, got excited. All these groups started getting excited about, this is something we can help with. It was more of like, this is a challenge that the community just like they seized it. And it was exhaustive. It was really, really a lot of, my schedule was crazy, and I did a lot of public talking, and we did our best to do, a lot of social media and things like that. And we had the help of a great government consultant, Judy Erickson down at the Capitol, who has amazing relationships with both parties. And it was because of that and her skills to help kind of guide us through all this. But even people with the agencies were, they were super supportive and happy, and the money. So people don't always understand when that bonding bill was passed. Eventually, the Alliance didn't get any of that money. That went to the state agency who was in charge of that, which is the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And then when they got that state bonding bill, then that triggered the federal dollars for that, because those federal dollars were sitting there waiting. And if we didn't go get it, they would have gone to somebody else who was ready. And so that's why I called it a perfect storm, because all of the research had been done and the data had been collected on what sites needed to have the work done. The plans weren't all made yet. Some of them were underway, but the money was waiting there. We had to go get it. So you don't want to leave $47 million on the table. So really, and the reason why I call it a community success is because that's who did all this stuff. We did the presentations, we talked to people, but the love of the river is what did it. It was like resurrecting, dusting off an old baseball glove or something. It was like Dave went out and he talked to different people and got donations and got behind it. So that's why it just really just worked. But it was a lot of talking to people. And then it didn't pass the first year. It just fell apart in the last minutes of the session that first year in 2016. And in the last minutes of the session, negotiations fell apart. And so then we had to do it all over again the next year. And that means we had to hire the consultant for another year. And then we had to raise all that money again. And because we had other work that we were doing at the time, but we had to, we had more people working for us to take care of those projects. So I was going out and doing a lot of talking to people and stuff. So.
Oh man, what an interesting, sort of endeavor there. And
yeah,
pretty amazing that it was able to work out the way that it did. And
it really is. I look back at it and it wasn't without cost, but it really was a win-win, because the Alliance had been around a long time, a long time, and hadn't really made a mark on recently anyway, with something that really needed to be done that was really tangible, I think. I mean, not that the work we were doing wasn't important. It's just that it was like, oh, okay, now we can get behind this. This is the thing. And it kind of actually put us back on the map as far as being, I don't know, being relevant again, so it just kind of sparked people's interest again. But with all of the other work that had been done on like the river corridor projects that Mayor Ness started, and all of this other work that was in the works, that was the perfect storm. It was all of the excitement of, oh my gosh, the river's getting cleaner, and the city of Superior started doing more stuff, and and it's centered around the river again.
Yeah.
It just kept escalating and escalating and escalating.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kris, I think you described it perfectly. It was a perfect storm. And
Yeah.
I'll just add too that a lot of that early work really created the foundation for the effort that really surged then in the mid 2016, 17 in that time period.
Mhm.
A part of the history of the recovery of the river too is the creation of WSSD.
Oh yeah,
And-
that was the
and
start
taking-
of taking big.
and then taking the pulp and paper mill effluent offline from being discharged into the river to being discharged into the treatment center. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I thought I had it on one of my slides, but I didn't see it on there. I don't know what happened, but WLSSD came on in 1978, I believe, and
Yes.
that was the probably the biggest thing that happened in the river to change the trajectory of where the river was really going. It basically stopped the bleeding, and it helped start taking some of the mercury and some of the mercury out and the effluent, like you said. And there's probably other people who can speak to it better than I can, but 1978 was the year they came on, and that was the game changer. And then the next big game changer was the designation of the area of concern. And then the next big game changer was in 2010 when the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative program was started. And then when the funds became available, that's when things started cooking, because that's when the work could start getting done. And also the Clean Water Act, the Clean Water funds. So I don't want to mix up the words here. They used to have, you used to have to identify a responsible party before any of the work could get done. And that changed. And so they could say, okay, you can do the work. Here's the funding for it. But if you do identify a responsible party, you can still go after it. And so I think I explained that the right way. I don't know if Melissa Sholin, do you have anything to add on that? Melissa's from the Minnesota DNR.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Hi.
So you're talking about like a Legacy Act?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the Legacy Act that allowed the work to proceed without having to find a responsible party, and that helped accelerate things. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So those are some of Glenn.
I don't want to cut off before you finish up. I was just wondering if the Grassy Point Kingsbury Bay project has been completed, and if so, what recreational use do you think you can foresee for the Grassy Point part of where they've created that arm that sticks out into the river?
I'll let Melissa answer that. She's the person on that.
Yeah, I'm going to start my video. Hopefully I won't crash things. Last time I turned on my video. Yeah, so the restoration at Kingsbury Bay, Grassy Point, both were completed as of October. And so the island complex at Grassy Point, we're going to be continuing some work on that next summer, planting native tree and shrub and forb species on it. So we've selected species that are there to benefit migratory birds. But yeah, we're going to be working at like what the future uses of that island could be. If it could be a great stop like on the water trail, if we could have a place to pull up kayaks, maybe some trails or birding platforms. So the money that we had for the restoration can't really be used for recreational amenities, but I think that's something that we'd be interested in pursuing.
Thanks, Melissa.
Mhm.
I just want to mention again, I didn't have a slide in there with all the partners on it, but the area of concern partners are the Minnesota DNR, the Wisconsin DNR, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. And, the Alliance is also a citizen component of that. There's a ton of other agencies and local governments and stuff that work in and around everything. Everything is connected. So when I say like the Alliance's natural progression as we move through the area of concern projects, and if you want to know more about the area of concern projects, you can go on any of those agencies' website, or you can start with ours and you can launch from there because we have links to all of them. But there's a list of things that need to be done before it can be delisted as an area of concern. The natural progression is that, it becomes a national water trail. The National Water Trail does not protect it from in itself. There are no protections like a scenic, a designation, though there are different designations that do offer protections. This one doesn't do that. We have a busy working harbor, and there's a really delicate balance of what needs to happen there. And so we're not trying to remove industry from, the harbor, but we do want to keep it clean. And so, like I said, delicate balance. We want to keep it clean. We want people to fall in love with the river. And the way you do that is by going out there and connecting with the river. I do want to mention, I talked a little bit about wild rice, but there's one of the larger projects on the river has been wild rice restoration. Tribes are working on that. The Glyphwick is working on that, and the Alliance has had a very, very small part of it. But the wild rice that we've been planting around Clough Island is coming back. The geese are eating it, but it is there. And so there's other places where the agencies are employing different methods to keep the geese from browsing it all down. But this, like our video said, this area used to be so thick with wild rice that it actually looked like hay fields. And that's why the Ojibwa came here. They came here for that. And so that's a really important part of culture, not just for the Ojibwa, but for us. And the reason that is, and, their ancestors were really smart in protecting it because they knew it was a keystone species. And that means that there's a cascade of life under the wild rice. And that is also really interesting to read and learn about more about. And if you want a good speaker on that, you could, Peter Davis? I can't remember. Is that his name? Over at Glyphwick?
Peter David.
Peter David. And then Tom Howes over at the tribe here is an amazing teacher for wild rice. But as we see, so some of the mercury has been kept out, and we need to keep it clean. As we keep it clean, wild rice can only grow in very clean water. And so it's an indication of how clean our water is. So all of those things are connected. So I just wanted to mention that because it's a really good thing to learn about. Anything else that people have?
So Jim put something into the chat, and before that, a little bit ago, I saw that Deb Stone had a hand raised. Deb, do you have a question you want to ask? And then we'll get to Jim's question. All right. Hearing none, we'll go to Jim's question in the chat. I'll read it for you. It
Okay.
said, is there an overarching agency that oversees the coordination of the restoration, or is that the Alliance?
No, we don't do that. The Environmental Protection Agency is the overarching. They're the ones who designated it. Everything falls under that. And then in our area, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency was the lead agent for coordinating those efforts. Which, as you can imagine, we have 2 states. We have different agencies, and early on at the area of concern conferences, we were told many times that our area of concern was very successful and has been sort of a model for other people, other areas to look at. There was 43 around the Great Lakes. And there's been a lot of success around in other areas too, but as you can imagine, the agencies have very different focuses and ways of doing things. And so to get everybody together and figure out how to get this done is no small feat. And we get to work with all of those agencies, and there's an enormous amount of coordination that goes into all of this stuff. But really what's made it is the personal relationships, I think, and knowing that the people who work for these agencies in this area that I work with they all live here. I mean, yes, we coordinate with other groups, and we even work a lot. The Army Corps of Engineers has had a lot to do with the work here. And if you would have said, 6-7 years ago that you're coordinating with the Army Corps, people would have said, no, that's not possible. They won't work with anybody. And Doug's laughing because he knows. But it has been amazing to see.
The Corps has changed too.
Yes, but it's been amazing to see that coordination. It's really kind of unheard of to have the amount of coordination that has happened here. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, 20 years ago, the Corps didn't have any fisheries biologists or any ecologists on staff, and now they do. It's been transformative. Yeah.
That's really neat. It's really awesome. I see Courtney has a question. It's really awesome to see, have some of the folks here tonight contributing that have been around for a while and working on this for a while. So just quick thanks to everybody who's throwing in here and sharing their experience. So Courtney, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm really excited about the trail designation.
Yeah, me too.
And so I'm wondering, because I'm one of the cult followers of the National Park Passport Plan. Do you know this one?
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. So I know you can get cancellations from trails. So when are we going to get a cancellation stamp for the trail here through the National?
I don't know.
I should. I think it would.
Is there any other national water trails in there?
I'm not sure, but I've definitely gotten stamps for trails, like their terrestrial trail system.
I will have to check that out.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Yeah,
this might be a way for Courtney, who's fairly new to town, to jump in an SLRA and spearhead a project, getting this.
Let's get this done. Well, the National Park Service guy that we were working with retired a few years ago, so he was really helpful and instrumental in actually helping us get this application through, but he has retired, so I'm sure we can find somebody else with the Park Service to see if we can get that done. That would be kind of amazing.
Yeah, it'd be really cool.
Maybe a little bit of sort of questions out to the larger group here. So normally when we're in person, it's really easy to just ask people to like do a show of hands or anything like that, but I'm curious for tonight, just to get a feel, like how many folks that are in here would sort of consider themselves scientists? How many folks would do that? If you've got your video up, put your hand up. I consider myself a scientist. Can do the other, the hand raise reaction.
Look on your hands, people.
See a couple extra folks in here. Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, at least most of the people with their videos on are folks. So appreciate you sharing. I'm curious now. Next question would be how many folks have gone like paddling on the St. Louis River? I'm curious about the folks that have been down there and had an opportunity to do that. Yeah, I actually haven't got a chance to go do it myself yet, and I'm really excited to.
Yeah,
I see Joel waving his hand back there above his bike in the picture. That's awesome. Cool. I'm excited, I'm also excited about that water trail and that map I put the link, I threw the link in the chat here, and we'll go ahead and share some stuff after the meeting here tonight. We'll share links to all this different stuff.
Yeah. And you can find, you can get on our website and navigate, but, come out and see us on December 14th at Ursa Minor. Just going to be a couple of fun things, and wear a mask or just come out and see us. And or, get in touch with us if you're interested in doing some volunteer work or just becoming more involved in our organization. If you want to become a memberships are only $25 for a single membership for a year, or 40 for a family, or whatever you want to donate, but the memberships are fairly cheap. And then we do some pretty cool stuff. And you're supporting the water trail and things like that. But we're going to be doing a new map because this one does not say national on there. So we're almost out of these anyway. But these went like hotcakes real quick. There's some beautiful artwork on there. And so those will be available, I think. Well, we're shooting by, May. We should have them done by May, probably April. So, but you can pick up one. We also have those other, how many people have ever seen the On the Water guides? They're a really beautiful booklet. And I think we have some outside of our office there too. And they have a bunch of history stuff in there. Cool. And at some point, we're going to try to get some funding to republish that with some updates in it, and make a nice ring binder so that it's easier to, like a flip binder, more of a spiral binder with that. So John Thomas is saying that especially love canoeing, especially at Kimball's Bay area. Yeah, what are some other good places that people like to go?
What would be a good place for a beginner?
I would just put in over at Munger Landing. Well, that's going to be closed pretty soon for some work that's being done. But if you did go put in at Munger Landing, you could paddle out and go around Clough Island. And that's one of my favorite places to go, because if you get behind Clough Island, or you could go over to the Wisconsin side and you could go in over there. But if you paddled around Clough Island, you can, the Pokegama is Superior's newest landing. It's great. You can get there from both sides, which is really nice. But every time I went out on the water this last summer, I saw river otters.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I tried to kind of give them a wide berth, because you don't want to tick an otter off because they have really sharp teeth and they're very territorial. The mom had 2 babies with her, and we were paddling in that, like if you put in at Munger Landing, there's that little island, like kind of off to the left there, that you have to kind of paddle around. And there's a little channel in there, and I was trying to give them a wide berth, and she followed us out and kind of started hissing a little bit. So we just had to move a little faster, but it's super fun to see the otters.
I love advice like that.
Yeah.
Very location
just keep moving. You want to watch, you can watch them from a distance, but you don't want to paddle towards them.
Only in the Twin Ports, just be careful of those otters out there, everybody.
And there's like in the fall, when the top of the water is warmer, I've seen sturgeons come. I've been in a kayak where a sturgeon has come right up to the surface of the water and was rolling on the water. It just looks like a huge dinosaur. When you're in a kayak, you get a front row seat.
That's really neat.
So,
yeah, and
I've caught at least a dozen sturgeon ice fishing.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Biggest one's 54 inches.
Oh my gosh.
What do you, you just pull them up and obviously just put them right back down, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're probably can't imagine.
After about a half-hour fight.
I was
Yeah,
just gonna say,
I
yeah,
say.
seems about right.
When they hit, you just hang on. That's all you can do.
Well, and there's plenty of fish out there too. Rob Moss, who is a former board member of ours, he fishes just about 365 days a year. And he knows all the spots to go. And he said there's so many fish out there, and there are fish consumption advisories that you do need to pay attention to, but he catches fish every day and he knows right where to go. So
it's amazing. Yeah, and that video I think Bethany commented earlier on the video, like sort of the live video showing all the wildlife and stuff, that was pretty amazing. So a little bit of
I can't believe she got all that in one video. when she was here, I didn't even know she got through 6 loops and she made 6 of them. So they're on our website. I didn't even know that she had done them.
Yeah.
And she was just amazing. Hopefully she'll come back again. She's going to school out in Maine.
Oh, that's amazing.
So she and her dad are big canoers. So she took her dad out with her and they did those.
That's really neat.
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there, and you can always come by and ask us. We're not in the office all the time. We're working from home a lot as well, but you can always shoot me an email. If you have questions about the river, or if like summer comes around and you need some help with planning or something like that, just, let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, this is really neat, not only to hear the stories and, and some of the major successes, but, one of the main things I'm taking away from tonight is all these resources that you all have produced for getting out there and enjoying it. So that's really neat to share that with folks. So
thanks, Bethany. I'm glad you could join us. Bethany lives down by, are you Waukesha?
Appleton.
Appleton,
Just
that's right.
off of Green Bay. Yep.
I was gonna say Appleton, but then I said the wrong thing. So Bethany's actually worked. She helped produce our Celebration of Progress 2 years in a row now. She has worked on virtual and live events in the past, and so good to see you, Bethany.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to see you too. Great presentation tonight.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, so we're a little bit after the hour, so
Yep.
We can take any last questions from anybody else out here if they have anything they want to ask before we wrap up tonight.
It's great to see some of your faces. And Deb, is that you? I just have to ask, Deb Stone, is that you? Where did you go? She lives down in St. Paul, in Chippewa Falls now. But I don't know if it's my Deb Stone. Anyway, it's good to see all you. I'd love to take you out on the river sometime. So we don't actually give tours, but we can do a few here and there and at least tell people where to go and stuff like that. And there are some really good landings over in Superior now, so I would check some of those out. Those bays over there are just amazing. And then if the wind picks up, then you've got those little fingers to go into that you can stay protected. You have to be ready to change your plans because that wind can knock you sideways and you don't want to really be out there.
Yeah, for sure. Neat. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. So thanks again, Kris. Really appreciate the presentation tonight. And thanks to everybody who contributed to the discussion. This is great. This is exactly what we
thank you so much.
And from the Cafe Sci Twin Ports side, we do this every month. So next month we will be, I just communicated with a speaker from the university who's going to talk about using robots to do research and therapy for Alzheimer's. It's going to be pretty awesome. So our topics are really diverse, and it's really great to connect with folks like Kris and the St. Louis River Alliance and all the water resource professionals here. And we like to mix it up. So if you want to learn about robots, come out next month and we'll chat about that. So
thanks, Nate.
Yeah, thank you all for coming, and have a great night, and connect with Kris and SLRA in a couple weeks here at Ursa Minor if you want to follow up. So
thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Nate. Bye-bye.
Make it.
Thanks.